So imagine you're sitting at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon, not doing anything particularly important, maybe scrolling through your phone, maybe staring out the window, and this thought just kind of creeps in. Like, I'm making decent money. I'm not broke. But why does it still feel like I'm just treading water? You pay your bills. You have a little left over at the end of the month, sometimes. But that feeling of financial momentum, that sense that you're actually building something, it's just not there. And when you look at your bank account, you're not horrified, but you're also not satisfied. You've probably done the math in your head 100 times. You've thought, okay, if I just made another $20,000 a year or $30,000 more, then things would feel different. Maybe you grind for years to get from $60,000 to $80,000, and then eventually, if you're lucky, to six figures. And then you get there, and it's better, obviously, but also, somehow, not as different as you thought it would be. The gap between earning $60,000 a year and earning $100,000 a year is not really about the $40,000. It's about the hidden architecture of how money actually behaves at different income levels. The structures, the habits, the mental models, the leverage points. Section 1. The Lifestyle Escalator. Let's start with the most obvious trap, because even though everyone's heard of it, almost nobody actually escapes it cleanly. Lifestyle inflation, or as I like to think of it, the invisible escalator. Every time your income goes up, your baseline quietly rises to meet it. The apartment that felt fine at $55,000 suddenly feels a little cramped at $75,000. The car that felt perfectly adequate starts feeling a little embarrassing. A raise from $60,000 to $100,000 does not give you $40,000 in new money. After taxes, after the automatic upgrades to your life that feel basically mandatory, the real difference in free cash flow can be surprisingly thin. She said, I make almost double what I made 4 years ago, and I genuinely cannot tell you where the money went. She felt more financial anxiety at $97,000 than she had at $58,000 because her expenses had bloated to match her income, and now the stakes of losing that income felt higher. They create a gap, a deliberate, uncomfortable, protected gap between what they earn and what they spend, and that gap is where actual wealth lives. Section 2. The compound effect of starting late. The cost of waiting to invest isn't just a little bit of lost growth. It's legitimately devastating over longer time horizons. Person A starts putting $500 a month into a basic index fund at 25. Person B waits until 35. Person A ends up with roughly $1. $7 million. Person B, about $745,000. What's actually happening is they're burning the most valuable investing years they have, their 20s, their early 30s, waiting for a financial condition that may or may not materialize. Someone at $65,000 who starts aggressively investing at 24 can end up in a far better financial position at 50 than someone who waited until they hit $100,000 at 36 to get serious. The gap between $60,000 wealth and $100,000 wealth is not just a salary gap, it's also a time gap. Section 3. The Invisible Tax Architecture. The way taxes work creates a completely different financial landscape at $100,000 than at $60,000. And most people at either level are navigating it without a map. The people who are genuinely thriving at $100,000 are almost always the ones who are maxing their 401k $23,000 a year before taxes touch it, and then adding an HSA on top of that. It's like building a private tunnel under the tax system. They're essentially donating money to the government that they were legally allowed to keep. Section 4. What changes about risk? At $60,000, your margin for error is thin. If your car needs a $2,000 repair, that's potentially a month of discretionary income. People at this income level often become risk-averse in ways that actually hurt their long-term wealth building. They avoid investing because it feels risky. They keep cash in savings accounts earning 0, 5%. At $100,000, you can try a business idea with $5,000, and if it fails, it stings but doesn't sink you. The people who earn $100,000 and still live like every financial decision is life or death, they never unlock the full power of what that income can do. Section 5. The Social Architecture of Money. At $60,000, your social world often has a particular gravity to it, going out, splitting checks, carrying certain kinds of debt. At $100,000, you're increasingly around people who talk about investing casually, who think of homeownership not as a dream but as a plan. One of the most actionable things a person at any income level can do is start consuming the social environment of a higher financial level, not by pretending to have more money, but by reading, listening, engaging. Section 6. The career leverage gap. What matters enormously, possibly more than the salary number itself, is what I'd call the trajectory gradient of the position. Someone at $62,000 as a junior engineer, getting mentored by great people, shipping real products, building a portfolio, that person is compounding their earning potential at an incredible rate. They sometimes take less money in the short term to get into environments that invest in their trajectory. They treat their 20s and early 30s as a period for compounding professional value, not just collecting paychecks. Section 7. The money identity problem. Some people have absorbed a fundamental belief, often not consciously, that they are not a money person. That investing is for other people. It's not that these people look at their $100,000 salary and think, I don't deserve to build wealth with this. It's that they just don't. They spend. They drift. The people who genuinely change their financial trajectory are almost always the ones who, at some point, shift their identity around money. Section 8. Practical architecture. The single most effective financial behavior is automating savings so that the money never hits your checking account in the first place. Having a 3 to 6 month emergency fund is the single most stabilizing financial move most people can make, because it removes the scenario where one bad event forces you to liquidate investments or go into debt. People who say, I'm saving 20% of every paycheck, automatically increase their savings with every raise. The percentage mindset is self-adjusting in a way the dollar amount mindset isn't. A $100,000 earner who spends $98,000 has basically the same net worth trajectory as a $60,000 earner who spends $58,000. Conclusion. The gap between a $60,000 financial life and a $100,000 financial life isn't really a salary gap. It's a gap in structure, in habits, in how money flows through your life. The people I've seen make the most dramatic financial progress almost never did it by waiting for the perfect salary. They did it by building the right systems and the right identity with whatever income they had. Don't wait for the number to change before you start building the architecture. The $100,000 mindset, the automation, the compounding, the deliberate gap that's available to you right now at whatever number you're at. Start there. The salary will follow.